Welcome. Check it out with Jessica Lee. I'm here with Trafford Judd, who is the Senior Sales Performance Consultant at LinkedIn. Hi, Trafford. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jessica. Great to be here.
LinkedIn is such a well-known technology player, and everybody in the business world is now pretty much on LinkedIn, right? That's the professional network, but it has grown and it is a big organization, it's part of Microsoft now. I wanted to ask, first of all, can you kind of explain the LinkedIn business units and then go into what is it that you do?
Absolutely, yeah. So LinkedIn has over 630 million members, but what a lot of people don't realize is that we are also a software company, and there are three software or SaaS businesses that sit within that member ecosystem. So one supports the talent and recruitment industry, one supports the learning industry, and then the division that I work for works directly with the sales industry. So we call it LinkedIn Sales Solutions, and our flagship product there is LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which helps sellers to prospect into their accounts and to derive insights from their targets that they're working with.
Okay, thanks for defining that. Yeah, I think Sales Navigator is a very important tool. And it has gained a lot of attraction with sales folks, especially now with the COVID situation where everybody is using all kinds of digital tools in order to reach prospects and really have that relationship. Your role as a sales performance consultant, explain a little bit about that, because I think you are actually helping the customer success folks, not like pure outside sales folks.
Yeah, that's right. So I sit within our sales readiness function, which some companies would call sales enablement or sales excellence. And so our responsibility is really to partner with different parts of our business to make sure that we're driving seller, or in my case, customer success productivity. And so where you traditionally have sellers who are working towards achieving a quota, and there's very kind of tangible measures that you're working towards, in customer success, it can be a little fuzzier because they are partly responsible for product health of their customers, and then they're also partly responsible for avoiding churn as well, for making sure that customers continue to renew. And so we're kind of working towards both of those metrics with all of the initiatives that I've put in place with them.
Okay. Yeah, so as the company has grown and the organization has grown, you're now looking at 170 customer success managers in this particular Sales Navigator business unit. Obviously, as you're growing and scaling, there's going to be a lot of change, like standardizations, a lot more metrics, accountability, and process improvements in order to really scale effectively. Can you share with us some of the changes you've seen, the lessons learned, and maybe tips of where you see effectively these are the right things to do?
Yeah, so I started at LinkedIn 6 years ago, and I was a customer success manager at the time. And in those 6 years, the LinkedIn business has doubled in size in terms of employees. And with that comes a lot of complexity and a lot of added challenges in terms of the way that we enable our sellers or our customer success managers. And so I would say that the biggest challenge has been finding opportunities to scale and standardize. And we're taking a number of initiatives in doing that. For example, the customer success organization that I work with is one of 3 or even 4 different CS orgs within LinkedIn supporting different products. So we're looking at ways that we can collaborate across customer success, as well as drive standards around things like competencies and behaviors and learning content that applies to multiple role profiles.
Well, when you look at standardizing, what have you standardized and how effective has those new changes been? And I'm sure it's a challenge to try to change anything. There's a cultural resistance to making changes, but how has it been? What's effective?
Yeah, so I think one of the most effective things I've done so far is really trying to look at the evolution of the customer success role. And CS as an industry has changed a lot. It's one of the newer professions, and it's one of the fastest growing professions as well. And so what we find is that the outcomes of that role have really changed. Initially, CS was really positioned as almost like an extension to the support function. So they were very focused on reactive support and customer education. And then as we've started to standardize the way that we educate our own customers, we're starting to see that that education aspect of the role is becoming a little bit less. And then as the deal sizes are growing, they're becoming more and more strategic consultants. And so with that comes a real shift in the skills and the behaviors that we need within our customer success managers. And so we're starting to think around, what is that kind of 2 or 3 year roadmap of the CSM of the future, and what skills do we think that we need then that maybe we haven't built today, and then really focusing on those skills. So one of them, for example, is change management. So we know that as our customers get bigger and more complex, that changing the behavior of the people that are using our software is going to be more and more important, and our CSMs will play a really important role in that. And so we spent a lot of time last year really doubling down on change management training and methodologies so that they feel equipped to have these conversations and lead their customers.
I heard that there were some content that was mandatory before to help the agents be more knowledgeable, but that policy has shifted to being optional. How has that impacted the results?
Yeah, so the learning industry in general is undergoing a huge shift, and this goes well outside of sales enablement into higher education and corporate training and a whole host of other areas. So what we know is that learners are behaving more and more like consumers of any other product. So Netflix is the classic example where, we used to sit down at a certain time to watch a show that we knew would be broadcast, whereas now that seems so archaic, and I don't think anyone would kind of stand for that. We want to watch what we want to watch when we want to watch it. So learning is no different. And, we've gone from a world where we would prescribe a course or a program that would get deployed right across our sales force, and slowly moving towards a world where we have a whole suite of content that's available on demand, and people can, dip in and out in accordance with their own development plans and professional objectives.
So there's more content, but it's on demand and it's more personalized. So it's not just one size fits all. But do you actually recommend a journey in which if you learn A, next step is to learn B, that you would recommend, not that you enforce it to be a mandatory path, but I would imagine a lot of people would prefer to have a list of courses where they can consume because it's based on best practices of learning in that sequence.
Yeah, you never want to end up in a world where people are overwhelmed and don't end up choosing to do anything. And I think we've all felt that when, we turn on our own TVs and we don't necessarily know what show to watch, and we spend the entire evening just scrolling through all of the options available to us. And so the way we're looking at countering that is through the relationship with the manager. And so our hypothesis is that if you have a really great relationship with your manager and they are equipped to be a really good coach, that they will actually work with you to actually curate all of the content and the options that are available and build a really meaningful learning and development plan that's in line with your own needs and your own professional objectives, as well as what your customers are seeking.
Okay, Trafford, I'm going to ask you to go through the 5 steps of change management, because I know that's been a very effective lesson that you've been teaching your customer success managers. And essentially all customer success managers need to know this.
Yeah, customer success is all about driving behavior change within their customers. And so this is a common methodology that we use both internally at LinkedIn as well as externally with our customers. So the first step is really understanding the why and really driving home and making people understand what we want them to do and why it's important and why it matters. The second is leading from the front, so making sure that you have consistency of communication across all of our channels and that you're openly seeking out objections. Then the next step is measuring. So how are we going to measure if the change is actually happening? With SaaS software, we can do that easily through product usage, but sometimes it's not so clear. So making sure that we know and have a common language around measurement. The fourth is Moneyball. This is my favorite one, where you actually surface those success stories and share them wide of people that have already adopted the change. And then the last is accountability. So making sure that you're holding people to this new standard and that you're updating the way that you reward and recognize people.
Okay, good. So 5 steps of effective change management, and people can learn more about it looking up this lesson on LinkedIn. Next question I want to bring up is something I know that you're passionate about, is to drive enhance diversity and inclusion in the sales industry, right? Talk to us more about what you do and how you're making a difference there.
Yeah, so LinkedIn has, a fairly strong perspective on diversity, inclusion, and belonging. So we call it DIBS internally. And the idea is that, diversity of your workforce will get you so far. Making people feel included will get you a little bit further, but it's really that belonging piece where people really feel like they belong that really drives connection, employee retention, and our hypothesis is that it drives sales outcomes as well. And so we're spending a lot of time this year looking at the intersection between sales and DIBS, looking at the experience of underrepresented sellers, and trying to understand what are the opportunities to really drive an equitable approach to setting up your sales team. So there'll be more to come there, but we're in the middle of rolling out a pretty robust strategy at the moment.
Wow, that's great. So looking forward to hearing more about it down the line. You can come back on the show and tell us the lessons learned and the tips you can share around driving improvement in sales through diversity, inclusion, and belonging. Thank you so much, Trafford, for being on the show.
Thank you, Jessica. Great to be here.
There you have it. Take it up with Jessica Lee, Trafford Judd from LinkedIn.